Thank you, Mary Clark. It is so nice for us to begin our morning with your music and the hymns that you have chosen. Thank you. The choir is going to sing now. I have the lyrics to the song, Come to Jesus, posted in the chat for those on Zoom, and I will put it on the screen for those here in the meeting house. Is that okay? love the words to that hymn. Welcome, everyone. We are going to introduce those in the meeting house. And so this morning, here we have Gage Stimmer. It is good to see you, Gage. We have Ellen Craig. We have Tony and Kay Mendenhall. We have Eileen Critch and Cleo and Diana McFarland. And we have Kristen and Naomi and Olivia and Michael and Josiah Sherman. We have Manisa Peterson and Mary Clark. So thank you all for being here. We have Tom Harold and we have Sally Tucker on that side of the room. On the other side of the room, we have Dave Longnecker and Shirley Erdl and Nita Burton. We have Dennis Engel and Doug and Kathy Simmons. We have Michelle Lilly, Deborah Lilly, Brian Lilly, and both Rob and Val Pearson. And we have Mary Clark here and Ron and I. So thank you all for being present this morning. On Zoom this morning we have Dwight Ferguson from Bella Vista, Arkansas. We have Keith Kendall from Friends Fellowship down in Richmond, Indiana. We have Terry Reinert from here in Winchester. We have Cliff Painter from Calaveras County, California. I was telling everybody that we have a video of him up on his garage roof cutting up a tree. It's pretty impressive. So one of these times we're going to have to show that. We have Bill and Joyce Wagner with us from Muncie, Indiana. Welcome, Bill and Joyce. We have Kathy Burton with us this morning. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. And Nancy Wolf from Bill and Joyce from Muncie, Kathy from Winchester, Nancy Wolf from Greenfield, Indiana. Welcome, Nancy. And Al and Linda Groth, they're getting down to their last days in Loretta, Florida, and we are looking forward to having you back here in a couple weeks. Thank you for being here this morning. We have Norm and Karen Peters on Zoom this morning. It's good to see you guys this morning. We have Jeff Clark from Winchester, Indiana here this morning. Nate and Becky Edmonds from Muncie, Indiana. Welcome, Nate and Becky. We have Delmer Ferguson and Angela Allard from Overland Park, Kansas. Welcome. It's good to have you here this morning. We have Pat Engel from here in Winchester. We have Lois Hogue and Dave Miller from Sarasota, Florida. Welcome, Lois. It's good to see you. We have Janet Ross from here in Winchester. We have Teresa Wallace and Kenny Girton from here in Winchester. Welcome, Kenny and Teresa. And we have Jan McVeigh from out in western Indiana. I never can remember, Jan. Jan, yeah, tell us.
Here.
From where?
Tangier.
Tangier. I want to.
We are a non-town.
Non-town. I know it's very small. Anyway, thank you, Jan, for being here. We really appreciate your presence. We also have Stan and Gretchen Hendrickson from here in Winchester. Good morning, Stan. And we have Tony and Marcia Critch from here in Winchester. Good to see you guys. And we see the Boyds, Charlie and Valerie from Wichita, Kansas. It's good to see you. And Doug Baker is in New York, and we are thankful to have you here, Doug. Thank you for being present. And Suzanne Weber from here in Winchester. We have Marcia Holger. I actually think she is down in Richmond with her daughter, Kendra, so it is good to have you here this morning. And Betty Locke from out at Summers Point here in Winchester, and Dave and Nancy Brumfield, who are also down in Loretta, Florida, with close to the Groths. So thank you all for being present this morning. Ron is going to lead us in a hymn.
The first hymn that I'm going to ask you to sing with me is Blessed Assurance. It is number 345 in the hymnal, so you can be looking that up. The reason that I chose this was that one of the things that struck me so much about Gideon was that he was willing to do God's will. He was willing to put himself at some risk and take some pretty serious chances for God. But he wanted confirmation. He wanted assurance that it was really God asking him to do this. Fortunately for us, God has given us his Spirit, and all the assurance we need is available instantaneously if we will just connect with him. So let's sing Blessed Assurance. It is number 345, and for those here in the room, if you're able and are willing, I'd love for you to stand as we sing this. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, taste of glory divine. There is salvation, purchase of God. Of his Spirit, washing his blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior. Thank you. You may be seated. If you will, continue with singing by turning over to number 315. And again, this is Let Your Heart Be Broken. The thing that came to my mind as I was thinking about all this week was Gideon's response to the angel when the angel came to ask him to go and lead his people out of their oppression from the Midianites. And Gideon pretty well laid out for the angel all the trouble that they were in, all the hardship that they were facing. The oppression of the Midianites was starving people and harming people. And it was quite clear that Gideon's heart was broken for his people. He wanted to help. He just, again, wanted to be really sure that it was God asking him to do this and that God would be with him through the challenge it was going to be. But it started with his heart being broken. I have often said, Stan Thornburg used to tell us all the time, the prophet has no right to speak up until his heart is broken for the people to whom he is prophesying. I believe that still with all my heart. So let's sing together, Let Your Heart Be Broken, number 315. Let your heart be broken for a world in need. Feed the mouths that hunger, soothe the wounds that bleed. Give the cup of water and the loaf of bread. Be the hands of Jesus, serving in his stead. Here on earth applying urge to care, challenged by the need apparent everywhere. Where mankind is wanting, fill the vacant place. Be the means through which the Lord reveals His grace. Add to your believing deeds that prove it true. Knowing Christ our Savior, make Him Master too. Following His footsteps, go where He has trod. In the world's great trouble, risk yourself for God. Let your heart be tender and your vision clear. See mankind as God sees, serving far and near. Let your heart be broken by a brother's pain. Share your rich resources, give and give again. Thank you. I hope you'll ponder those words. There are so many lines in there that just speak to our situation today. In the world's great trouble, risk yourself for God.
Those are the exact things I've been thinking about too. I have greatly appreciated Ron's essay about Gideon. The thing is that Gideon was of the least tribe. He was really not considered anybody really important. He was just a normal person like most of us. But he had several good qualities, as Ron pointed out. One of the things that Ron didn't point out that I believe was very evident in his life is that he paid attention to the difficulties in our world around him. He paid attention to the difficulty of his community, to the difficulty of his people. He paid attention to that, and because he was paying attention, when God spoke, he knew that he had to do what God had asked him to do. It wasn't easy, and he made doubly sure that God was speaking, but he wanted to make sure that he responded to God's care for the people in the world that were suffering. That is an incredible lesson for us, because again, Gideon was a normal, everyday guy like us. And the only thing that stops us from being the kind of people that change the world is not listening to God and not obeying what God has told us to do. So we are in a place, I am in a place, that empathy will hopefully motivate us to be the kind of people that God needs in the world today. And as Ron said in the song that we just sang, in the world's great trouble, risk yourself for God. The other thing that I appreciated about Ron's essay was that he just mentioned it just briefly, that Gideon had an incredible life and did some incredible things. But towards the end of his life, in some of the things that I read, that even though Gideon refused to be crowned king over Israel, stating, "It is the Lord that will rule over you," Gideon had a problem. He viewed himself as the rightful leader of the people. Late in life, he forgot that it was God who delivered them in their time of need, not Gideon. He took many wives, and he named a son of a concubine, Abimelech, meaning my father is king. And this son later murdered his brothers and tried to establish himself as king over Israel. So late in life, he spent a lot of time doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And it has reminded me of Walter Mills. I always told everybody of Walter Mills that, don't make too much of that. Walter Mills always, in every prayer that he prayed at our dinner table, he always closed his prayer with, "Lord, keep me faithful." And I always thought, man, he's 94 years old. What does he have to fear about being faithful? Of course he's been faithful. But there is always a temptation until the day that we die that we will not remain faithful to God. And in the case of Gideon, it mattered greatly. He should have remained faithful to God. He should have remembered the things that God did through him to the people of Israel. So we need to be faithful, and that is going to be my prayer until the day I die. Lord, keep me faithful.
The 6th chapter, she's got me too short. The 6th chapter of the book of Judges begins like this. Once again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples would invade the country. They camped on the land. They ruined the crops all the way to Gaza and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither the sheep nor cattle nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count the men and their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that finally they cried out to the Lord for help. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I snatched you from the power of Egypt and from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them from before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live. But you've not listened to me." So then the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite. I'm not sure I said that properly, but that's one of those tribal words. Where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress in order to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "But sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian." And the Lord turned to Gideon and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" That is the encounter that starts all of this off. I know that you have all probably been familiar with the story of Gideon for a very long time. We've gotten to hear it. You know, the statistic that I put at the bottom of the first page in this thing, remembering about getting Gideon New Testaments in school, 2.5 billion Bibles given out over their 100 plus years of service. 2.5 billion Bibles given out. Guess what? Winchester Friends has bought several thousand of those Bibles. We are part of that statistic. This church has supported Gideon's International for a very, very long time. And with that money, those Bibles have gotten placed. Gideon faced an incredible challenge. You've all heard that story from the speakers who have come to speak to us on Gideon Sunday for a lot of years. There are several themes that just constantly come up when you think about Gideon and his life. The ones that have meant the most to me this year as I've read through this and thought about it all week long are these 4 or 5. First is Gideon's humility. I wrote about that. It's just like Joshua before him. Gideon had that same kind of humility from the lowest of the lowly tribes of Israel, and he was the least of his own family and clan. God chooses those people pretty frequently to rise up and become the leaders because they're not full of arrogance and they're not full of pride and all the things that don't make people not very good leaders. So God saw that this was a humble servant who could be led, could be taught, could help to lead his people out of this bondage. So we should ponder the humility of Gideon. Part of that humility was his honest assessment of the trouble that they were in. He didn't try to pretend that, it wasn't so bad. It was pretty terrible. The second theme that rises up for me as I've studied this week is his insistence on spiritual clearness. Kind of makes me think he was an early Quaker, because early Friends developed this process of clearness committees. We don't just on a whim say, God has told me to go and do this, so I'm going to go do this. When there is any doubt in our mind, and even sometimes when there is no doubt, we still seek the clearness of the teaching of the Scriptures, of the example of Jesus' life and his ministry, and of the fellowship and counsel of like-minded followers of Christ. A clearness committee works through those guidelines in order to help us be certain that God is indeed leading us to do what we feel like God is leading us to do. I am thankful that Gideon had that sense of his need for great clearness from God before he set out on what were very risky missions. The third thing is his incredible courage. I cannot imagine as a young man being told to go and tear down the idols of your father, the things that your father's invested his religious life in for all his life. To be told to go and tear those down and use the wood in order to make a proper sacrifice to Jehovah. That took a lot of courage. So did being confronted with 32,000 soldiers who responded to your call to action and having to send all but 300 of them back home and go into battle against a countless horde of Midianites with 300 guys. Only the courage that God gives would ever make that possible. Gideon was a man of great courage. I am so thankful that my dad is in this meeting today. I tried to think this week about his traditions. I never, ever saw my father worship anything except the Lord our God. You know, there were lots of things in our lives that maybe weren't quite right. But I knew that my father was devoted to worship the God, the Father of Jesus Christ. So I didn't have anything to tear down, and I'm so thankful for that. The fourth thing is conviction. When Gideon came to the end of his life and they tried to make him king, his first response, his automatic response, shows you where his heart was. I will not be your king. The Lord must rule over you. You got to love that they were offering him the world. And he said, no, It is only the Lord who's qualified to rule over you. But then Pam's reminder is also there. The fifth thing is that Gideon was a work in progress. He got to the end of his life and he wanted to make that ephod. I'm not even sure how you pronounce that word, but it was a gold representation of God. And he shouldn't have done it. And it became, according to the scripture, a snare to the people of Israel because they started worshiping that thing rather than worshiping the God who cannot be held in our hands. All five of those things have been really important to me as I thought about Gideon this week. Now we're curious to know what has been important to you as you think about Gideon's story. The queries that we've posed at the end of this are, number one, what is the most meaningful quality of Gideon's life or story or ministry? And do you agree with Gideon's International in their statement about why they chose him as the name for their organization? It's on the front page of the paper that we sent out under the paragraph that said, I remember that. It just gives a little bit of history about Gideon's International and why they chose Gideon as their namesake. So that's number one. Number two, humility keeps coming up in describing people God uses in his work. Why is humility so important and so essential to doing the work of God? Number three, why do we too often neglect or downplay the strength that we do have and then fail to use it for God's glory? The angel said to Gideon, who was saying, I'm weak, I'm lowly, I can't do anything. Go in the strength you have and watch God work. Why do we too often downplay the strengths that God has given us and fail to use them to glorify the Lord? And number four, we live in a culture and a world that emphasizes and sometimes even worships bigger and more all the time. We live in a culture like that. When have you seen the truth that less can be more in the spiritual life? It's one of the insistences of simple people like Quakers that less can be more. When have you seen that? How has God taught you that? How has God encouraged you to live that way? Those are the four things that we would ask you to respond to, but you are welcome to respond to other things that come to your mind as you think about Gideon and his life and ministry. If you are online, Pam will be here to try to help unmute. In the room, Rob Pearson has the mobile microphone and we'll be glad to bring it to you if you'll get his attention. We are so delighted you are with us today. Thank you very much for choosing to make this time available to God in your life.
Well, I wanted to talk about number two, humility. Why is it so important and essential? And it ties into part B of number 4, that less can be more. Hope I don't bungle this thought, but convey it well. The glory of God doesn't come to us. It comes through us. Humility allows us to move out of the way of God. That's when less is more, when there's less of us to occlude the glory of God that can be sent through us, that can work through us. It reminds me of John the Baptist, who said, I must decrease so that he can increase. So that's just a thought that I was compelled to share.
Thank you. Yeah. I will unmute you, Bill and Joyce.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Okay. I'm going to speak from our time in the mission field. And I guess I would hope that everybody could have some of the experiences we had, because it puts you more dependent. When you have less, it puts you more dependent on Him. One night, we were in our bedroom asleep, and all of a sudden, I heard a little clatter. And I looked up, and there was a man standing right beside my side of the bed. And what had happened, he had reached for the car keys that were on the dresser. But in the meantime, there was a doily with some money on it, and he got that also. And so it was the clatter of that money that I heard, and I sat up, and about that time, Bill sat up in bed, and he saw somebody just outside the window. It was a man out there, and then there was this individual in our bedroom. And when I sat up, he took the car keys and darted off. And then we decided we weren't going chasing after them. And evidently they had gotten in. Later, we found out our house through an open window that we had failed to shut, which was a reminder to me, that even in our weaknesses, even in our failures, when we recognize how important the Lord is to us, how important it is that we follow Him, He will take care of us. And we were so thankful that He was in the room with us there, helping us make the right decisions. And then later, we found the car keys laying in the driveway, and our car had been taken from the garage, and evidently he was not a good driver, because it got lodged up on a ramp near a palm tree. And again, how thankful we were that God was looking after us, taking care of us, even in our weaknesses and even in our unwise decisions. He's there guiding us and directing us. And how important it is that we develop this close relationship and relinquish our lives to Him completely, and then follow Him where He leads us. How important it is that we become less and He becomes more in our lives.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak on a recent experience that I've been having, switching to this new career with doing sales. So it's been difficult starting out, trying to learn about the product, to answer questions that these potential clients have, addressing these different issues that I've been having with like understanding, scheduling, all kinds of stuff. But I think in the beginning, so a choice that I'm making when it comes to how I'm doing this job is I want to move from a place first of faith and relying in God to put me in the right places with the right people. I'd recently received some advice from somebody who also works in sales, saying that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And so last couple weeks were kind of rough. So I was just trying to really hard, working from a place of, I think, desperation to bring in some money, you know. So I got to this point where I was running into my savings. I was getting scared, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, I almost have nothing left. And I'm thinking about maybe I should go back to my old job, maybe I should do this. But then, so I prayed on it. I was sitting there waiting with God, kind of sitting in silence. And I came to this thought where I had the fear that was going through me I was able to let that go. I remembered that even if I have absolutely no money in my bank account, I'm still going to be okay. I'm still going to be alive. I still have people around me that can help me. Even if I didn't have a house or a place to live or a car, or, you know, I could still be alive. I could still be happy. And so I prayed to God and I asked, you know, put me in the right direction. Let me meet the right people. If this is something that I'm meant to do, I'll keep doing it. If I'm meant to go back to where I was, then I'll do that too. I'm going to trust your judgment. And so I shifted my stance in working from a place, humbling myself and say, I'm going to let go of all the effort and all the grinding and the desperation, and I'm going to have faith in God, because I felt like I was pushed in this direction for a reason. And the day after, I made a good sale, and then I made another sale just on Friday. I got to talk to this woman that is at a Mexican restaurant in Richmond, and we ended up having a conversation about God. She is a pastor of a church in Richmond, and they have several different churches, and one in Union City. And I know it, you know, so we got to talk about God for about, a couple of hours. We were having a conversation about that, and it was my relationship with God and how I was putting that first, and my desire to want to serve and help this business first, that inevitably led to this sale. So it got me it reminded me to humble myself, that if it's meant to be, God will put it in its place. Rely on Him, and everything will find a way to work itself out. So my mentality is God first, and then when my mentality and my faiths align with Him, then I know that I'm going to be okay, and that this is going to work, and that even if it doesn't, I'm still going to be okay.
Thank you, Gage.
I got so engrossed in what Gage was saying that I'm not sure I'm quite ready, but I think I've shared some of this with a lot of you before, but there's people here that don't know this. I think I've heard more about Gideon's International than I have about Gideon in my life, so we'll put it there. But it's been, goes back 40 years. Dale's mother died 40 years ago, and she was I loved her a lot, and she loved me. I knew that. We didn't always agree on everything, but we both loved her son a lot. And after she died, when her birthday came up, it was September the 20th, and I was like, oh, and I don't have anything for her, you know. And I thought, oh, well, if I could, what would she want? Well, she would want Bibles, because that's who she was. She would want Bibles to give away. She would want people to receive Bibles. And I found Gideon's International, and I gave her a birthday present that year. And so she started what I've done for several years, and unfortunately now I have several that I give their birthday present that way. But I think that started out to be important, but she really led me to what I needed to do that comforted me, and I felt like, oh yes, I'm remembering them in a way they'd like to be remembered. So that's my Gideon story.
We are just a couple of minutes shy of the top of the hour. We will wait for a couple of minutes. If anyone is still feeling led that you should speak, please be faithful and do that. We do not want to steal anyone's opportunity. So let's wait together quietly for a couple more minutes. If all hearts are clear, just a couple of comments that came to me as I was listening and waiting. One is that I'll bet nearly everybody in here got a New Testament from the Gideons in school at some point, except maybe the youngest folks who are here today. Show of hands, how many of you received a Gideon New Testament in school? Look at all those hands online. We've all been beneficiaries of that organization. The other thing that came to my mind was a conversation Pam and I had with one of the Mennonite guys that we so deeply appreciated during our years in Africa. He had worked all across the continent, and it was because he was a theologian and a specialist in peacemaking. And as you all know, Africa has been racked with conflict for a very long time. So he was over on the west side of Africa a lot, dealing with places where there'd been coups and lots of government instability, trying to help them to get stabilized and to recover after some of those coups from a spiritual perspective. And as he got older, he and his wife settled kind of permanently in Nairobi. She worked at the Kenyatta University, I believe it was called, as a music professor. She was a brilliant musician. And he worked for the All Africa Conference of Churches, which is a continent-wide organization of Christians just trying to support the work of God's church all over the continent. And we had a conversation with him one day in which he said to us, I've been all over the place and watched all these places. The thing that has impressed me, one of the most important things, was that when the Wycliffe Bible translators would come to a village, most of these Africans that he was dealing with were participants in what was called by the theologians African traditional religion. And it's kind of this mix of symbolism and of rituals and routines mixed in with what they understood God to be, without having had the scriptures to give them the black and white information about who God is and how God works. And so, he was talking about people out in villages where none of that education had taken place. And he said it was always interesting to me to see that when the Wycliffe translators came in and translated the scriptures, especially the Gospel of John and a few of the other New Testament books, when they translated those into the local language so that even the least educated people in those villages could understand the words of Scripture, he said, my impression was that the missionaries' work was mostly done at that point, which is incredible. I mean, it's an incredible statement. But he said, when people who had already worshiped God in the only way that they knew and who were deeply religious and keenly attuned to spiritual life, when they got the framework given to them in their own language and they realized that God doesn't speak English, God speaks my language. God hears my language when I pray. When they figured that out and started digesting the teachings of Scripture, he said the missionaries could go home because they got it. And it changed their lives. And it turned them into missionaries. I've always appreciated Harold Miller telling us that story. I'd love to see that in our time as well. When people would simply long for God and see the Scriptures as the framework that can guide them to friendship with their Creator. If we could simply convince people of that, we could make a lot of progress for the kingdom of God. To close this time, would you join me in singing a little chorus? It's number 101 in our hymnal. It's just something that's been on. Cliff was telling us earlier that He woke up this morning singing, "Oh, How He Loves You and Me," and I thought about maybe we should sing that, but I woke up thinking this one, so we're going to sing number 101, "His Name is Wonderful." Let's sing this together. It kind of speaks of that God that Gideon worshiped. His name is wonderful. His name is wonderful. His name is wonderful. Jesus, my Lord. He is the mighty King, Master of everything. His name is wonderful. Jesus, my Lord. He's the great shepherd, the rock of all ages. Almighty God is He. Bow down before Him, love and adore Him. His name is wonderful, Jesus, my Lord. Amen. Thank you, each and every one who has participated today, whether by your stillness before the Lord or by your wise words shared to help the rest of us. This has been a real privilege to be with you in worship today. Before we go, we'll quickly call some attention to a very full calendar on our handout today. First of all, today, over on the table, there is an offering plate that's there to receive contributions for supporting the church's ministries. And it's also there, again, to remind me to say thank you to so many of you who do that so faithfully all the time. Thank you, each and every one. On Monday, tomorrow, the 24th of March, the Ministry and Oversight is scheduled for their March meeting. That will be at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening by Zoom or at the parsonage. You are welcome to come and sit with Pam and me. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, Ministry and Oversight. On Wednesday this week, there will be prayer soup supper at the parsonage at 5:30 p.m. That will be followed by the Welcome Class Bible Study, and this week they're starting a new quarterly. There is a stack of quarterlies over on the table with the lamp on it over there. It is called Christ in Creation, if I remember correctly, and it's a mix of Old and New Testament. It should be quite an interesting curriculum for the next several weeks and months. So please, if you would like to join the Bible study, pick up one of those quarterlies. You can talk to Pam if you've not been participating in that but would like to start. She will give you the Zoom link so that you'll get that each week and you can join by Zoom. That will be at 7 o'clock by Zoom or at the parsonage on Wednesday this week. At 8:15 then, this being the fourth Sunday of the month, the Fabulous Friends and Parsonage classes will have their every other week check-in. That's at 8:15, also by Zoom. On Thursday this week, the 27th of March, we'll have choir practice at 6:30 p.m. down in the choir room, and that will be followed by chiming choir practice at 7:15, also down in the choir room. Then next Sunday, the Ministry and Oversight has asked that we treat fifth Sundays as special days. We will have a mostly musical meeting for worship next Sunday. That means that folks who are here in the room or even folks online can request a hymn that we would all sing together. So please be thinking about a hymn that you might like to request the congregation to sing. There will also be a devotional presented and some time for worship sharing, but we'll do a lot more singing next Sunday. So that will be at 10 o'clock next Sunday morning. And that will be followed then right after the meeting for worship by a fellowship potluck down in the dining hall for everyone who comes. So please plan to join us. There is some instruction on this sheet about the things that would be useful for you to bring. You will be provided all the plates and silverware and all of that stuff that you need. But the food items is kind of up to the cooks of the meeting. So that's all next Sunday, starting at 10 o'clock with worship, and then the potluck lunch probably at 11:45 or so. Looking just a little farther ahead, on the 1st of April, Tuesday, the USFW will have their April meeting, and that will be in person at the church basement at 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. And then Wednesday, the 2nd of April, will be monthly meeting for business for April, and that will be at 7 o'clock by Zoom. Let's see here, a couple of other things, I think. Oh, the new Fruit of the Vine devotionals for April, May, and June, which features 1 week's worth of writing by Pam, so you really don't want to miss this. And get them quick before the price goes up. Today they're free. There's a stack of them over there on the table, and there are more in the office, so if all 10 of those disappear this morning, we will make sure that others are brought out. So that is the Fruit of the Vine for April, May, and June. And I think that's all of the announcements we need to make. On the prayer concern side of the sheet, lo and behold, Becky Edmonds just got home from the hospital, and it was Nate's turn this week. He has been to the hospital and received treatment for what they are at least thinking is a very severe allergic reaction. And in the end, they let him go back home to their new house in Muncie. But Nate has had a pretty rough week. So they would appreciate your prayers for Nate as he gets through this, and also to continue praying for Becky, who is still finding her sea legs after getting home from lots of hospitalization and rehab work. So pray for both Nate and Becky Edmonds. Pray for Susie Turner, who is recuperating back at home now after being hospitalized earlier this last week. Pray for Gretchen Hendrickson in the same situation. She was at Reed Hospital with heart difficulties. She is now back home. Please pray for her full recovery and recovery of strength. Charlie Boyd and Valerie have been with us again this morning from Wichita. They have been in consultation with specialists once again this past week, still awaiting the final decisions about what kind of new treatment he will receive for autoimmune illness. So please pray for the Boyds. And please continue praying for Megan Kirkpatrick, who is doing better all the time as she goes through rehab and therapy after injuries suffered almost a year ago in an accident coming home from Quaker Haven. Pray that she will grow stronger and be ready for grad school in just a few months. On our cancer list today are the same two that we have had before. Cheryl Thomas, who is Growth's daughter in South Carolina, and Carolyn Dwiggins, who is a friend of Doug Baker and many of the rest of us, also in South Carolina. I am sure that you are aware of others who are dealing with cancer. We always remind you to pray for them. Ask the Lord to be with them and with those who are standing with them and caring for them. Do the same for those who are struggling with the illnesses that have been flying around, whether it's measles or influenza or COVID or RSV, the other seasonal stuff and things that have become awfully prevalent. Ask God to be with them, to heal them, and to give their medical caregivers wisdom about how to stop all of that. It has been, again, a rough week of weather across the country, so please be praying for people when you see reports that people are suffering from windstorms and snowstorms and mudslides and wildfires and all the other things that have so disrupted so many lives across the country. Let those reports be a reminder to pray. I don't know about you, but I have been grieving ever since I heard early Saturday morning of the shooting in New Mexico, Las Cruces. We pray for peace all the time, and that needs to start at home too. We need to pray that God will somehow speak peace and wisdom into the minds of Americans to quit trying to solve their problems by hurting other people. So please pray for those folks there who are grieving those deaths and who are recovering from grievous gunshot wounds, and for people in the places that were on the news again this week where the violence has ramped up rather than going down, whether it's in Gaza and the Middle East, Lebanon, or whether it's in Ukraine and Russia. The world is depending on us to pray. So please, make that a priority in your life. Those are the concerns that we have dealt with at the end of this week. Very quickly, if there are other urgent concerns that should be added, we will be glad to hear those. Online, you'll need to unmute. Here in the room, you'll need to wave your arm or foot, or whatever you can wave. Nothing's flashing and no arms are waving. Let's assume that we have it covered for now, and as always, we welcome you to send other requests in by email or phone to the church office, and we will see that they get into the reminder that goes out tomorrow. For just a moment, would you join me in holding these concerns before the Lord and allowing him to lock in a few of them to be our special responsibility in the week ahead? Let's pray together. Father, as always, we are grateful to the bottom of our hearts for the privilege of being together with these who love and serve you with their lives in order to worship you, to sense your presence, to hear your voice, to feel your hands shaping our hearts. We thank you that you are willing to do that for us. We thank you as well that you are the God who you are, more powerful than humans can imagine, the God above all others, the God to whom we turn when we're in trouble, just as the people of Gideon did. We thank you that you are present with us, that you are available all the time, that you listen to us, that you speak to us, that you respond to our prayers. We are mindful of the counsel of James, that prayers that are effectual and fervent can accomplish much. In the same way that the Gideons have said about Gideon, that just a little tiny group can affect the affairs of the world by their faithfulness and prayer. We ask that you would make us one of those little tiny groups. We come to you with these concerns that we've expressed. You already know all the circumstances. We will simply commit them and leave them in your care and ask that you do what you know is needed and best in every situation. We will thank you in advance for what you do. We will thank you also in advance for showing us how we might get involved to be a part of your answer to these prayers under your Spirit's leading. We thank you that you care for us and love us like that, so profoundly. Go with us as we leave this place. Help us to continue in your Spirit throughout this day. Give us joy as we walk with you. Make us effective in sharing your love with others. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Need to catch Manisha. Cliff is smiling. Our pianist misses nothing, Cliff. She is sharp as they come. Thank you, Mary, so much for that. The Lord bless you, each and every one. You are most welcome to be at liberty. Thank you for joining us this morning. Go in peace. Have a wonderful remainder of your Sabbath. Zoom muted me again. Or maybe Dwight did that.
Dwight did. No.
I was in the switching with the big audio settings thing that somehow that got clicked. Oh well. Angela, how are you?
Hanging in here.
Thank you for being there with Dad today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, do I remember Dad probably can't hear me. I'm pretty sure Dad was a member of Gideon's International in Hutchinson, wasn't he?
Oh, for sure, for years.
They
Yeah.
went to that banquet every year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we should have had Dad give the sermon today.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's those Gideon members. Hey, Michael, thanks for being here. Well, I was glad to see you this morning. Is Rhonda's gone on another trip, isn't she?
Yeah, she's in Seattle, but she comes home late tonight.
Oh, okay. I thought they were coming home on Friday.
Yeah. Dwight, where's she at?
She's in Iowa.
Oh, that's right. She got home and then she went to the funeral. I forgot that.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for your help.
Oh.
You do good work. I kind of remembered they were coming home and then turning right around and leaving again. Dwight, do you know, did she drive to Iowa?
I would assume so.
It's not that far, I think. Just up north a little bit.
Just a
Well,
little.
let's find out what's going on in Florida if we can. Oh, did she just leave? She did. Well, bummer. Guess we'll just have to check on Wichita. How are the Boyds today?
We're all right.
Charlie's fired up and ready to go.
Right.
Still no word from the rheumatologist.
Might have to make a call this week, but right now, nothing.
Well, we're asking God to make calls too. I think that's how minds usually get changed. So we'll just keep praying. I am so anxious to get started on that medication and get a little energy back.
Yeah. Any medication. Give me something.
Yeah. Well, hang in there. Valerie, you okay?
Yeah, very tired.
And your college
Excuse me.
classes you're killing them?
Well, this past week was spring break, and I thought I would catch up on some of those, assignments that are supposed to take all semester in the background that I haven't started on yet. But I checked my college email once, and that's about as far as I got this spring break. So we'll acknowledge that again tomorrow on Monday.
Well, all any of us get is one day at a time. So tomorrow can be spring too. I was glad to see your box pop up this morning. It's really good to see you guys. Looks like today ought to be a day of rest.
Oh, today is also the 15-year-old's last day of spring break. So we have to dye hair and plan outfits. And
Wow.
he woke us up early this morning, which is fine, because then served us eggs and sausage and toast and coffee. And but as nice as it is, it's all a means to an end. We also have the hair dye box right here,
Dare we ask what color the hair dye is?
Red.
Midnight ruby.
I thought I saw some red on there.
Yeah. Oh, good. They don't look good.
So, no, I didn't know that boys did all that stuff too. I thought planning outfits and dyeing hair and all those things were for
Yeah.
my daughters.
I am thankful I don't have time to do any of this stuff. So I never get started. And
Yeah,
Dwight doesn't either.
I was
that's
gonna
my
say
excuse. I
Dwight
don't
probably
have
has
time.
to gotta come to our office.
Tell
Dwight,
us,
have you whittled away at your work schedule a little bit? You were stacked up there for a while.
Who are you talking to?
You've knocked out
Um,
2 jobs anyway.
yeah, I'll go to about 7 or 8 different jobs this week. Just little stuff. So
Wow. Well, I don't know how in the world you keep track of all that, but I'm glad you do.
one of the jobs I have to go do this week is measure for another bathroom. A couple that I've already built a bathroom for them. They've moved twice since then, and they're in a farmhouse that they need a bathroom redone. So
Keep talking amongst yourselves. I got to run check on somebody real quick. I'll be right back.
Dwight, tell us about Adam's house. What,
it was for sale and it was going good. Lots of views online and several showings. And the last he knew on Tuesday, they had 6 showings, and then he didn't hear anything until yesterday morning when the real estate agent called and said we have a problem. The the dingbats had got into the backyard and had attempted to steal the air conditioner, but it is actually bolted down with an iron cage around it so that you can't just walk off with it. So they left that and instead climbed up on it, broke a window out, and climbed into the house, and then stole the refrigerator and the dishwasher. And instead of shutting off the shutoff valve to the water on each, they just used wire cutters and cut the water lines going to each one, and that left it flooding. So they're gone out the front door with the refrigerator and the dishwasher, and nobody knows for sure what day it was because the real estate agent showed up yesterday with several inches of water standing in the main floor and down in the basement, and the ceiling washing in down in the basement. And so he's got a major flood damage repair to do before they can go back to showing the house. Um, he works for a fire and water restoration company, so therefore they're going to do the repair. He's the real estate agent is suggesting that they go ahead and leave it on the market and actually have showings while the work is being done so that people can see that it's being repaired correctly. And one of the people that have already seen it wants to possibly be interested and would therefore pick out the colors that they're going to paint and pick out the new flooring that goes in. So who knows? It could turn out to be a good thing, but it's a month setback because it'll take them, he said, between 3 and 4 weeks to do the repairs.
yikes.
Yeah.
Welcome to Kansas City. Uh, oh, well. Happy birthday, belated birthday to Adam, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, oh well. Okay, so um, I don't know if you ever sent me a quote for Rachel's bathroom.
I sent you the dimensions and an approximate number. There's no way to quote it because I don't have any idea what tile you want or anything like that.
Okay, so that was a long time ago, right? That you sent that. I never saw it, so I'll go look through.
You responded to it.
You did?
Yeah.
Was that back in December?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like ended up sick and life went all out the window. So,
As she said, that was a long time ago.
yeah, okay, I'll look
Hey,
forward
Angela, are you still working? Are you trying to stop working? What are you doing?
trying to stop, but I am now on a countdown. I got 1 year left. So
I meant to, I was gonna let you know. I just looked for it. It's been several weeks ago, but there's a Facebook group here for recommendations. Well, it's not a small group, but somebody was looking for an immigration attorney and
don't
your
say
name popped up and
we
I,
are we're turning everyone away and just trying to take care of all the current clients that we have. So these,
um
you know,
I
my
commented and I said, I'm sure she would do good work, but I don't know if they're taking any more clients.
yeah,
So,
I don't know. The downturn in the stock market may delay my retirement, but we'll see.
mm,
Yeah. Uh,
I would not want your job right now. That's for sure.
just a little crazy. Uh, um, yeah, it's just people are so afraid. Even permanent residents are very afraid.
I I saw yesterday, Angela, or it was last night's news, I guess, that it said that the president was coming after immigration lawyers next. Did you see that?
No, but it's not surprising.
My heart just broke when I heard that. Like you need more drama.
Yeah, well,
Here's the Sinclairs from Idaho. I think they've not changed their clocks with the clock change, maybe.
uh-oh.
Okay, Gib and Donna, I've got you unmuted, so clean it up. We're just finishing up here and we'll be headed for the house before too long, but we're having a nice cross-country chat with Kansas, and we still have two from Florida listening in, Kansas City and Wichita. And I'll
Maybe.
bet Gib and Donna are in Nampa, I would guess. Maybe it was a robot. We'll wait and see a minute.
Oh,
Yeah,
what are we doing?
well, so is Donna, is that you?
Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. Hang on just a second here. I'll see if I can see. Oh, here we go. Try that. Does that give you a button to push? Hey, look at that. There they are. So are you guys just back from church?
No, we're not going to make it today.
Well, we just finished.
We're attending yours.
They just
Oh,
finished.
well, we'll have to send you the recording because we're finished and everybody's heading for home here pretty quick.
Okay. Well, we always read your message anyway, whether we can get there or not. So
We appreciate that. I'm always amazed by that, but I certainly appreciate it. I just can't believe that engaged people like you don't have something better than do with your time.
well, I'll tell you what we've been doing. Gib's sister has moved up here from Nevada, and we've been trying to get her moved in and settled.
Wow.
And it's been a big job.
Are they coming to Nampa?
Yes.
How about that? Yeah, moving is never easy.
No, it isn't. And the older you get, the harder it is.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Well, it's nice to see you.
We're getting there day by day.
We all just get one day at a time, so we might as well do the best we can.
That's true. So,
Gib, you doing all right?
guys are doing okay?
I'm sorry, say it again.
You're doing okay, are you? You and Pam?
Yeah, we're just running busy. It's always a little hectic, but
Yeah.
such is life. Gibbs doing all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Staying out of the hospital and everything?
Yep.
Good for you. Good for you. How are your kids?
Uh, well, Harry's retired now. He's in Chicago right now, but he's gonna be coming back here, and he thinks he's gonna help us out, but it might be the other way around. So
Yeah. Yep. I've heard that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him and Ginger are doing fine. So
And they're still in one of the Carolinas, I think, right?
North
Yes.
Carolina.
yeah,
North
that's where
Carolina.
Tim is. Mhm.
Wow. But Terry's going to come to Boise or Nampa?
Yes, yeah, he is. Yeah,
My,
he has his trailer in our backyard. He thinks he's gonna
oh,
stay there. So
wow. I think maybe you told me that once before. My
that's
brain, my brain
that's
doesn't
all
hold
right.
information.
Well, I tell myself that every day. So so
It
it
sure,
could
sure,
be interesting, Ron.
sure doesn't get any easier, does it? Hey, I think, Gib, did I see that Boise State got knocked out of the tournaments?
Yeah, they did.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And however, College of Idaho is progressing.
Oh, really? And that's NAI,
Yeah.
I think, isn't it?
Yeah, AIA.
Yeah. Well, good. I was telling, we had a Purdue student here in the meeting this morning, and she's just home for the weekend and headed back. I was telling her I watched quite a bit of the Purdue game yesterday, and I told her, I played 3 years of college basketball, and if I'd have played the way those guys played yesterday, I'd have been out of the game in about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
It looked more like a rugby match with a basketball. It was just ridiculous. I don't know how in the world the referees know when to call the foul, because it's all foul.
It's all foul.
I don't understand it. Purdue held on to win, so since Kansas is knocked out and Boise State's not there, I guess I got to cheer for Purdue.
Yes,
I think they're the last Indiana team standing, so I can't remember. Indiana maybe won their first round game, but I'm not sure they're still in it.
I think they've lost out.
I think so too. They had they've been terrible for quite a while now, and they've actually had a great season. So they're on the build. I'm glad for them. But Purdue is a machine.
Yeah.
And those Purdue kids, I could just see when I was watching that game, those Purdue kids don't do that mugging kind of defense. They play basketball rather than thug ball. And, we used to have Purdue music groups that would come down and do community concerts here in Winchester. And you could tell that in those kids that were musicians. They were mannerly and respectful and just so well behaved. And I know it was because of the adults that were in charge. They were training those kids to be decent human beings. It's been a real endorsement for the way Purdue does education for me.
Yeah.
I encourage people to go up there any chance they get, because they just don't see it very often anymore.
Nope.
It's kind of a shame.
It's a roughhouse.
Sure is.
Sort of a game anymore.
Yeah. Hey, another thing about Idaho that has been in the news here has been that trial of the killer up in Moscow.
Yep.
I'll sure be glad when they finally get that taken care of and over with.
Well, it's supposed to get started here this next spring, and everybody in this state is hoping that he pays his price.
Yeah, I still can't support the death penalty, but I sure don't. He doesn't belong out on the street.
He don't belong on the street, so
He sure doesn't. Yeah, you remember Max, my death row guy.
yeah. Yeah.
He died. I don't know if you knew that or not. He died in prison.
Uh-huh.
So the state the state got him one way or the other. I think it was,
Oh, yeah.
I think it was because they fed him so much fat and carbohydrates that he just,
Well, they sure get big and fat in the prisons.
yeah, and their heart arteries clog up and then they're done.
Yeah.
It's just, it's slow execution, but anyway, you know, if they'd have executed him quickly, I would have never gotten the chance to become his friend and help him to meet Christ. So I'm really glad that he did not get the death penalty.
Yeah. And they're still wrestling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And and now they can't decide whether they want to give him a injection or shoot him with a rifle.
That's right.
We're headed back to the Stone Age.
Going back to the Stone Age.
We really are. Sometimes you wonder when God's going to get tired of us and pull the plug.
Well, it's going to be a big flash on everybody.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Well, so now you see on your screen, that's my brother up there in the upper corner. Maybe you can't see everybody, but my brother Dwight is here. He is in Bella Vista, Arkansas.
Go Razorbacks!
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, Arkansas is playing basketball, aren't they? Yeah. And Angela and my dad are sitting in Leawood, Kansas, which is just the outskirts of Kansas City. That's my dad's in an assisted living place there. And Angela is an attorney over on the Missouri side in, I can't even remember the name of her town. What's her town, Dwight?
Dad's in Leawood.
Yeah, what's your town?
Oh, Raytown.
Raytown. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Too much activity this morning. My brain is about flooding.
Yep.
Oh well. Anyway, it's been one of the biggest blessings of our lives that my family have joined us for Zoom on most of the Sundays of this pandemic. So I get to go to church with my brother and sisters and my dad pretty often.
Good, good.
It's been incredible. And we're always glad when you show up too.
Thank you, Ron.
You're like the parents that we didn't have out in Idaho.
Okay, what's your title for this morning? What did you have?
We're
still going through the Bible?
Yeah, and this one was the book of Judges. And I focused on Gideon, the judge Gideon.
Okay.
So yeah, we talked a little bit about Gideon's International and the Bible distribution they do, but mostly it was New Testament qualities that you could identify in Gideon's Old Testament life, that he was working towards Christian discipleship by the qualities of his life. He was kind of an amazing guy.
We're going to read your message.
Okay. We're going to go eat lunch.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
It's really late here. Oh, you guys too. Thanks for getting on. It's really nice to get to chat. We'll do this some more, okay?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Have a good day. Angela and Dad, thank you for being on this morning.
Yeah.
And go
I
Royals.
didn't even comb my hair.
Oh, wow. Hey, Angela, is the Royals' first game this week?
It is.
That's what I was thinking.
I may have to skip out and go to that one.
Well, that'll be fun.
Why not?
How's your weather? Is it warming up to baseball temperatures?
Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah,
Well, that's good. It was cold here this morning.
Do you have tickets, Angela?
No, but they're $45, $50, so.
Well, they announced they were sold out, but I'm sure there's aftermarket. Yeah.
Wow.
I can watch it from the bike trail.
That's what I think you should do. I cannot believe the money those guys rake in. Pretty incredible. Dwight, thanks for your help this morning. Having your expertise on this thing is such an asset. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Always welcome.
Good luck with all your jobs this week. I'm going to shut this down and go see if they've finished lunch yet. Hopefully they left me some.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Love you all.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.